Hey guys, Andrew Marsh here with DrewFit. I want to thank you guys for tuning in today. In today's video, I'm going to give you my 30-day experience on the carnivore diet. But before I jump into that, as always, I want to ask if you guys can please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let me jump right into it by first saying I didn't do all 30 days strict carnivore. I did 24 out of the 30 days strict carnivore simply because I have a low body fat percentage, about 5 to 8% range, and I wanted to maintain my muscle mass that I had because I know that when I do these elimination diets, I tend to lose a lot of muscle mass because I do burn fat and muscle pretty fast. So 6 of those nights were carb nights, but I did just come off of 7 straight nights or days of carnivore, and I had some pretty substantial changes, and I want to share them with you guys. So first off, let me start with the cons. Now, most of the cons I'm going to be talking about simply come from any elimination diet. You're simply eliminating things that your body was accustomed to consuming, whether it be sugar, carbohydrates. In this case, for me, it was giving up a lot of vegetables that I thought were healthy, but actually they were actually having an effect on me to an extent. I didn't really have any serious condition, but I did want to try this diet and see what happened, and I actually did notice some changes. So elimination diets do suck, but I think in the long run they do teach you a lot. So number one thing I learned from the carnivore diet that was a con was I couldn't implement intermittent fasting anymore because I worked a very physical job. And if you do lots of physical workouts day in, day out, carnivore diet's going to be pretty difficult in the beginning stages simply because you're not consuming as many calories. And I always implemented intermittent fasting, so I gave up breakfast. And on the carnivore diet, not a good idea. I was absolutely starving for breakfast. So up until about day 5 on the last 7 days did I begin to implement a breakfast. I was waiting for my body to adapt and say, hey, we don't need breakfast, you're good. But actually that wasn't the case. I was struggling every morning until I got food in me, and then I started to feel really good. So on about day 4 or 5 this week, on 7 days straight carnivore, I did implement raw eggs in the morning, just the egg yolks. And I want to be clear, these are free-range eggs, as well as raw beef liver, and that really helped the cause with feeling less energy. It really upped my energy levels, and I felt actually very good. Number 2 con, now this goes along with that, is that your hunger goes way up. And I simply think it's because our body is actually utilizing these animal foods that we're consuming as compared to empty calories through fiber, through plant toxins, or if we're eating just junk food. Our body actually isn't being filled nutritionally the way it does on a carnivore diet. So I think our bodies are starving for nutrition on this diet. You're actually getting that nutrition, and it's just screaming out for more. So your hunger naturally goes way up on certain meals. But I will say, after you eat a pound of ground beef with like 4 eggs, you're actually satiated and you feel, all right, my body's full. But maybe in a few hours, your body might be a little bit hungry in the beginning stages. Later on, I noticed that did taper off. Number 3 thing, you actually become sensitive to more foods a lot easier in my personal experience. Somewhere in this 30 days, I did try to implement an apple. I didn't have any sort of reaction to an apple, but I did have a reaction to an avocado, which I never had prior. And what I noticed was that I was actually bloating on just eating an avocado. So that was a very good indicator to say, hey, these plants that you may have been accustomed to in the past were actually causing some issues, but your body is good at digesting them. And when you eliminated them for a while and introduced carnivore diet, you found out that you actually were somewhat sensitive to these foods. And that was pretty apparent when you eat a food that you normally didn't get a reaction to and start to get bloated now. So I kind of feel that reaction is going to happen with a lot more vegetables if I implement. And I actually did implement it. I think it was Mother's Day. I had some coleslaw, and again, that actually made me have a headache that day, and I just kind of felt like crap after eating it, and I was like, well, damn, this kind of sucks. So that is one con, is that when you reintroduce some of these foods, and most of them were vegetables that I was getting a reaction from, is actually a good indicator. So I wouldn't so much call it a con, but it does suck that when you go back to these foods that you might have a reaction like that. Next thing, like I said, your hunger goes way up. And intermittent fasting I couldn't personally do because of my activity level is pretty high every day, just because of my work environment and my workouts. If you're somebody that does have an office job, maybe intermittent fasting and carnivore diet will work for you, who knows. Yeah, that's something you have to test for yourself. And another con, but again this could also be a pro, is that I noticed I was pooping less. This is just completely my opinion, is because, like I said, these foods that we're consuming from these animals offer a lot of nutritional value, not a lot of waste. So that's going to be natural. If your body's utilizing all of these foods that you're eating, you're not going to be pooping as much as when you're getting all of this dietary fiber from eating vegetables, carbohydrates, so on and so forth. So you're not going to have as much waste to excrete. I noticed I was only pooping about every 2 to 3 days, but the cool thing about it was, and this is a pro, is that I had much lighter digestion. I never actually felt the need to go to the bathroom. I always felt light and ready to go. So moving on from cons to pros, that was pro number one. It felt really good because I didn't feel like I had much weight in my stomach at all, or if anything, I actually felt very light and tight, if that makes sense. Another pro that not only a lot of other people, myself included, has experienced, was my sleep improved big time, and I didn't know it was actually suffering at all until I went strict to carnivore. I noticed that I was able to regain my ability, that when I laid down to go to bed, that I could just put myself to sleep essentially, and I could actually dive deep into certain dreams. And I haven't been able to do this for about 3 years now, and to be able to recapture that is really a magical thing for me, and probably my most favorite pro from the carnivore diet. And now the next two, a lot of people have noted as well. Some people have stated that this happens because certain things like maybe depression or anxiety or other mental issues could be autoimmune related. So certain plants and carbohydrates and foods that are disrupting your gut microbiome and causing leaky gut syndrome or certain autoimmune conditions, that you actually get more mental clarity and your mood is enhanced. And a lot of people have noted that since beginning the carnivore diet. I definitely noticed it. And I actually didn't know I had any mental clarity or mood issues per se, but I noticed that when I went carnivore, I felt a lot more in control of my mental state, and the ball was in my court essentially, if that makes sense. Now, next thing, lighter digestion, I already spoke about. This one was also very eye-opening for me, is that my discipline really increased naturally. I noticed that I found myself more goal-oriented throughout this 30 days. I felt more strict on myself to cut out bad habits that I may have had. I stopped listening to music all day. That's one thing that I was always big on. Since I work a physically demanding job outside, I would always put my headphones on and listen to music. On my drive to work and back, whenever I'm in the car, it's always music is on. I actually noticed I turned the music off when I was at work in my drive to work, and I would actually just sit there and listen to my own thoughts and have a conversation with myself. And that was very eye-opening to me, because I didn't even want the music, because I wanted to sort out my own thoughts that I was thinking. And that changed drastically when I switched to a carnivore diet. I noticed that in probably day 2 or 3. It really upped my discipline, which was awesome. Now the next 2 or 3 things a lot of people are probably the reason why they're going to start a carnivore diet. Number 1, weight loss. I wasn't even trying to lose weight. Like I said, I was trying to maintain my muscle mass, and I lost, I think, 9 pounds in the 30 days. I went from 183 to 174. So yeah, 9 pounds. My skin cleared up. I noticed that I did have some sort of allergy to chocolate. I noticed my skin would kind of break out, and when I gave up chocolate and all those vegetables and everything, my skin began to have a nice glow to it, and no acne or anything like that. And a great benefit I noticed was my hair growth, my nail growth. I feel like I'm starting to get claws right now, but my hair started to grow a lot faster. If you can probably tell right now, it's out of control. and actually it got a little bit thicker in spots that it was thinning. So that is another great benefit for anybody that's dealing with hair loss issues. So this is just my 30-day analysis, guys. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I'm going to try to update you guys maybe on day 45 or 60. But if you have any questions or comments, please drop them below, and I'd love to hear from you guys and get back to you. And thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.